Hey.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
You know, it's funny. I was looking at my phone and I was trying to get to a page because I saw somebody say hi everyone, and I can't see them. I can see Facebook user. So I wanted to take a look on who that was, and I wanted to get over to my page anyways on Huntophobia. Because for whatever the reason may be, and it's always been like this, that we can never see the comments on the Huntophobia page, and I never know why. So that's Carol that was here last week.
Oh, howdy, Carol. Welcome back.
So we've never been able to see the comments other than Facebook user through the Huntophobia page. And it's funny because I always seem to have a problem when I'm setting up the show. I hit schedule or whatever it is through StreamYard, and it's usually I always have a problem with Huntophobia page. It will say that there was an error that occurred, that so I have to redo it. But the problem is sometimes when you have to do it again, it goes double on the other pages. So it now is showing that there's two shows. I don't know why it's doing that. We are going to get into something a little bit before we're going to bring Tanner up, but we're going to get into something what's going on with Facebook. And I think it's important, and we need to start talking about this because there are going to be some major changes with Facebook this coming April 22nd. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard, but there's a lot of people that haven't heard. So we're going to talk a little bit about that before we get started. I spoke to StreamYard yesterday. And Tanner spoke to them today, and there's two different things that we're getting here. So, which doesn't surprise me, because sometimes when you speak to a company, you might get one person doesn't have all the information, and then you get somebody else that has all the information. You know what I mean? So it sounds like Tanner got the person with all the information, and I got the person that knew nothing. So so anyways, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So before we bring up Tanner, and I will let people know also, we've never done this before. We've never done this in the 2.5 years that we've been doing this show. Well, 3 years we've been doing this show, that we've brought somebody on twice in 2 weeks.
In a row, yeah.
We've never ever done that before. So Tanner must be special.
Yep, he's got to remember that down the line. I was the first one to do a double segment. Yeah.
Yes. So if Tanner ever, becomes famous and rich, and down the road or something like that, with all his podcasts that he's doing, that he will remember us and say, you know what, those guys gave me a stepping stone on being successful.
Yeah, just leave
Not really.
Just write a little blurb bit in your books, because I dedicate this book to Bryan and Lex.
From Through the Lens.
From Through the Lens.
Yeah, that That would be nice. Probably not going to happen, but that would be nice.
It would be cool. It would be cool.
Yeah, it would be. It would actually be cool. So, how are you doing? I haven't spoken to you since last week. So, how are things going with you?
Oh, so well, pretty much all right. I've been ill for the majority of the week, which has been nice. We've had a massive temperature drop in the UK, and it's about to get a lot colder. So I'm looking forward to that. But other than that, I've been all right. It's been working.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you allowed to share your special news yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I can tell you when I can share it.
When can you share it?
And what's the date today?
Well, don't say that, because then people are going to have a good idea what it is.
No, they won't. I will let people know at the beginning of May, maybe, if I'm feeling up to it. Maybe, yeah. We'll see. Beginning of May.
There's a lot going on at that point. The Global Ghost Hunt is going on in the.
I know.
You say the middle of May or the beginning of May?
Beginning of May.
Beginning of May. Got the Global Ghost Hunt. We're going to have some amazing news coming from. I already know what it is, but
yeah, I'm surprised. I'm so proud that you haven't told everyone yet either. Like,
no, I haven't told anyone.
It's been a big project in the making, so I'm glad it hasn't leaked yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
But
good.
Just stay tuned for that, guys.
Yeah, it's big news. It's big news. It's very big. It's life-changing big. That's how big it is. Would you consider it life-changing? I would.
Well, you probably, I probably would. Yeah,
I would consider it life-changing.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
No, not a little. A lot. a lot.
Yeah.
Life-changing. So anyhow, other than that, there's not much going on. Other than that, but people stick around, because we are going to be talking about StreamYard, what's going on with StreamYard and Facebook. I think it's important for people to know what's going on,
especially if you run shows.
Especially if you run shows. We will be doing another show down the road for people when it concerns StreamYard and Facebook. April 22nd, there is going to be a big change with Facebook that's going to affect a lot of people, especially people that go live. Okay, so stick around for that. We're going to talk about that when we bring up Tanner. So why don't we bring up Tanner now? Obviously, we had him on last week, and he was such a great guest and so cheery that we had to bring him back. We'll keep him. Maybe what we'll do is we'll keep him as a permanent fixture and through the lens, and we'll just keep him somewhere in the corner or something like that.
Just stick him down there. be the first guest to appear on almost every show since. But
yeah, I don't think you'd want to see us every single week, to be honest. So,
but no, obviously last week, if you were watching the show, we had a great time talking to Tanner. We covered primarily last week, we covered the book writing and private investigation side of his life. So obviously we could have spoken about that stuff for another 2 hours. So we missed all the podcast stuff. So I'm glad he's come back on this week to share the podcast stuff with us this time around. Yeah.
So here we go. Here's we call him Tanner, but he goes by T. Allen.
Hey guys.
Yeah, is it okay?
Tanner's fine.
Tanner's fine, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually kind of curious where the T. Allen came from.
Yeah, so I didn't want any brain confusion between my day job and my content creation, especially in the paranormal. So this started back before I was getting into real estate. I actually had a client who stopped working with me because she found out that I did paranormal and horror stuff. And that was a personal training client that stopped working with me. So I lost close to $1,000 a month of revenue because of that. Wow. I started putting T. Allen on everything that wasn't a fitness or like profession related.
Okay.
So that I could keep those separate. So if you're Googling Tanner Rutledge, either personal training stuff or real estate stuff will come up. But if you're looking for, like, say I do a paranormal book or something, or I'm hosting a paranormal true crime podcast, it'll all pop up under T. Allen. So just separation of those brands.
Yeah. And just to let everybody know as well, I do have Tanner's links and email addresses in the description. So if you want to ask him any questions after the show, go right ahead, send him an email or go over to his page and follow him.
And that
So
goes
before,
oh, sorry.
ahead.
Calling me Tanner is fine. The T Allen thing is just in print right now. Like
Okay.
website crawlers and stuff, they can see text. They can't hear us talk though.
No, they
Okay.
cannot.
So before we get into all the stuff you're doing with the podcast and stuff like that, let's talk a little bit about the StreamYard stuff. It's what's going on, because
Yeah.
honestly, like I said to you before we came up live, that I spoke to somebody yesterday and they told me something completely different than what somebody told you today. So why don't you just go a little over what they said to you today, so we can get all this confusion out of the way, and people that unfortunately are going live in groups, they can start figuring out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and stuff like that. So why don't you just get into a little bit of what was talked about today with you? Did you actually speak to somebody on the phone? Because I spoke to somebody
We
through
text.
email.
It was text. I went back and
Okay.
forth with their support just to I
Okay.
I want to know what I need to do moving forward. So what do I need to do with the guy's name is Johnny.
Okay.
And basically what I was told, what I asked, I said, hey, this new thing coming out with Facebook's API, is it just affecting groups, or is it affecting groups and pages and everything? And what he said was, it is only affecting groups. So this means you won't be able to add StreamYard app to your group to go live, but you can still go live. You can either stream to a page and then share that to the group. So like stream to Parapost. And if you have a group like I've got with Ghosthunteradvice, you just share that into the group, and then that puts the video into the group.
Okay.
Or you can use the RTMP destination feature, and you can stream that way with StreamYard. The downside to using that, and this isn't from StreamYard, this is from the other creators that I've talked to and some of the business owners that use StreamYard heavily. If you use that feature, you can't see comments. So you can go out and you can talk, but nobody can talk to you.
Yeah.
But
you'll have to have it on your laptop or your phone, the page up, so you can see the questions.
Yep. So you'll have to have two things going, but it's just groups. So according to tech support at StreamYard today, it is just groups. Now I followed up like Restream, Ecamm, all of the other ones are saying the same thing. It is just the group feature that is affected.
So and here's a good question for you. How do you determine what is a group and what is a business page?
Let's see. Can you see my phone? Nope.
No.
Okay. So when you go to set up your page, so you have, if you go into your Facebook app, you just pull out your phone, hit the Facebook app, you click your little picture of you down in the bottom. When it pops up, the first two tabs you've got that you can hit, one says pages, one says groups. They're two totally different features. A page is going to operate the exact same way that your regular profile operates, with some added functions for marketing and added functions for people to be able to contact you, because it's used primarily for creators and businesses. A group is a social community. So you're going to set that up with its own special background picture, and it's a group that people can join to interact as a community.
Okay. So if I go to, I'm just doing this for everybody that's, going to be, it's in the room or it's going to be watching the replay. So if I go there, I see in my phone, I see my name, and I see menu. I see a little icon picture of me and then my name. And then over to the side, there's a little arrow. And I hit that arrow and it shows all these different, it shows like Health Empowers You, Parapost Network Central, Global Ghost Hunt, Rightful Wonders, Parapost International, Talking with the Source, Huntophobia, not the public page, Internet Group of Researchers. I'm seeing all those. Those are business pages.
Those are business pages. So you could think of those like when you look at your personality or your persona there, when you look at yourself, think of those as different masks that you can put on, different personalities that you take across Facebook for whatever brand you're representing. And those are profiles. Those are business pages. Groups, it's just a place to hang out inside of Facebook.
Okay. So like I said before we came up on the live, when Tanner messaged me on Saturday and said, "Do you know what's going on?" And I said, "No, what's going on?" He goes, "This is what's happening." Well, like I said before we came live, my mouth nearly dropped. And I was freaking out. And there is a reason why I was freaking out. One, because of Parapost Network Central. And two is because of Global Ghost Hunt. Global Ghost Hunt has pages on Facebook that we're going to be going live on for the Global Ghost Hunt. And when I found that out, and when I found out yesterday that somebody told me that it was going to be everything, it wasn't just going to be groups, that I was freaking out. So thank God that it's not affecting the business pages or the personal pages. Because can you still go live on your own profile?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just groups. The big thing, like there was a rumor, and then there's been some validity to it. With all of the profiles that are getting hacked right now, I think they found a weakness inside of the group function with the way the API was working, and they're just taking that out, because the less entry points they have for third parties, the less of a chance there is of a data breach.
Yeah,
and then
I read that. Yeah.
On the flip side of that, groups have organic reach that you don't get from pages. You see way more activity from groups going through your feed that you're a part of than you do pages that you follow. Pages are pay to play. If we can't use our groups to grow our businesses, we have to pay for ads. I'm running about $400 worth a month of Facebook ads right now for my business, instead of using the group to grow it. But like all of that aside, this is why I like podcasting so much. And why I've always been a big proponent of building your business and building your brand on a platform that you own outright, that can't just get changed on you. And then using things like Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok to supplement that, and just have more sources of people that are coming into your content. With the changes in Facebook right now, it is just groups. Down the road, it could be everything. We don't know what Meta's doing. There's no way to tell what they're doing, because it doesn't seem like they follow the market in their decision making. They don't really go with what creators want. They don't really go with what users want. It's just whatever they pull out of their butt. They're like, oh, this will be cool to try. They do it. And with TikTok, I mean, a lot of trainers that I know, a lot of real estate agents that I know, and business owners have built their entire acquisition platform through that app. And there's a 50-50 shot that it's going to be outlawed in the US. So that shuts down their businesses and their ability to earn. Yeah. I know farms and people who do different types of raising cattle, selling local meat, selling local dairy, and they're building their farm, and they're able to fight back against big ag right here in the US because of apps like TikTok. And you get a little too dependent on that, and then there's a change where suddenly the feature that you depend on to do your business goes away, or the entire app gets outlawed and your business falls. So with podcasting, I own my RSS feed. I own that platform and what I'm saying and what I'm putting out. So I don't have to worry, like Apple changes something, cool. I can point my listeners, because I own my platform and I own their email addresses. I can send out data that they need to connect with me, and I can shift them over to another platform. With my personal training business, I can't go live in groups the way that I was going before. Well, I have my own fitness app, and all I got to do is pay a little bit of extra to get a feature put on that app. Suddenly, I take my entire group of people that are working with me off of Facebook, and they're already using my app anyway. I'm just going live in my app. So having those things built out that you own outright, it gives you a lot of power in running your business, and not, being at the beck and whim of the almighty Meta and Facebook or the United States Senate.
Yeah, it's they have the thing is with Facebook, they know how much power they have, and they know they can screw a lot of people. It's just it kills me, and I'll be honest, like anytime that I've put up a live in the Huntophobia page, it's always been a problem. Always been a problem with the group page. Like if I'm setting up the live, it says there's an error. And from what I understand, and what you said earlier about the API, is one of the main reasons why they're getting rid of it is because they've had a lot of problems with it. Mm-hmm. And so I get that. But, and you're right, who knows what's going to happen next year? They could get rid of all of it.
For all we know, Facebook goes away next year.
What's that?
Tech swings so fast here that Facebook could go away next year, at least in the US. I mean, look at what happened with MySpace. We were all on MySpace one day, and the next day we were all on Facebook, and within months, MySpace was gone. And I think Justin Timberlake bought it or something. But
what? MySpace?
Yeah, he owned it for a while.
Oh,
I think he sold it now, but he owned it for a while.
What about that other guy? I got a message from somebody the other day that's using that guy's picture in MySpace.
Really?
That was a terrible. I never understood why he used that picture.
I don't know. We all miss Tom.
Was that Tom? Yeah.
Yes.
And this guy, I think this guy's name was Thomas, that messaged me because I made a comment on somebody else's post, and he commented on my comment, and it was the guy. His name was Thomas. I don't know his last name, and he had the picture from MySpace. I go, dude, why are you using? I just wanted to say, why are you using that picture? It is a very famous picture. Yeah, I will say it's very famous, but it's a horrible.
It's bad. What somebody should do now at this point, though, is recreate that picture, but make yourself look like life has just been hard for the past 20 years. Like maybe you were on drugs for a minute, but things are kind of going okay now. And just use that profile and that picture, same pose, just a little, you look a little dirty, bro. Reach out and be like, hey, man, what happened to us?
Yeah. Well, MySpace is still around.
Well, I don't, but I mean,
MySpace is still, but it's all just music now.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's all of its music.
And that was I actually, Timberlake.
Yeah. And I remembered my password to MySpace.
That's awesome.
Believe it or not, I remembered it. I go, holy crap, how did I remember that? But anyways, so getting into just continuing what we were talking about last week, getting into your podcast. I've always really enjoyed your Ghost Hunters advice, but it's just not about Ghost Hunters advice. You do other things with it as well. Tell people how that got started and what was the inspiration of creating something like that. And before you answered, and the reason why I'm asking you this particular question, because I've seen many people on many different podcasts or vodcasts giving advice, and the advice always seems very generic and not very, to be honest, and I'm not putting anybody down, but it doesn't seem to be really any kind of advice. It's just more of a generic thing. With you, it's completely different. So just to follow up that question, what I just asked you, what is the research you do to really bring all that stuff to your vodcast?
Yeah. So my vodcast or podcast, Ghosthunteradvice, is personal experience. It's things that I did in the field, things that I learned from trial and error, things that I'm working with now, things that I've learned from other ghost hunters, other paranormal researchers in the field and teams that I've worked with. And then what I've learned from just working with clients and working with people. I try to keep it as practical advice. It started out when I started Ghosthunteradvice. I wanted the resource that I didn't have when I started, because there are things that you just learn from doing this that you're not going to learn anywhere else than doing this, because there's some stuff we don't talk about, and some stuff we don't talk about because we're afraid of what other people are going to say about it. Everything is contested in this field. The way EVPs happen is contested. The type of microphone that's best, the frequency that they happen at. What a ghost is, how we see them is contested. Is it actually standing there? Is it something that's being transplanted, but somewhere in the signal in our brain, and they're interacting with our brain and not the world? Everything is theoretical, and even calling most things theoretical is being generous. It's more like we have an idea of what might be happening and no way to test it. So I wanted something that would allow people who are looking to get into ghost hunting, when it started, people who were looking to get into ghost hunting, a guide that could evolve. I thought about writing a book. Originally, this started as a how-to ghost hunt and how to put things together in a way that if I was working a case as a private investigator, a licensed private investigator, if I was working a case and going to court, how do I do a ghost hunt or a paranormal investigation that is that detailed and that tight, so that I could walk into a courtroom and feel comfortable arguing this to a judge? And I put that into a show because I know and this is something that I joked about in the original RSS. What I think ghosts has changed and evolved based on what I've seen in the field and different things that have come out. My ideas on how EVPs happen and the best equipment to use has changed, and I'm very open about that on the show because it's, like I said, real time what I'm experiencing. So if I wrote a book, books don't change. You write a book and maybe you do a volume 2 or a volume 3 if you have about 30% new material to put into it. With a podcast, I could do those updates as soon as I'm learning it or if I'm working on it. So that's where that came from. And then just talking to people. The goal was to have people come up on the show who were new investigators, so that I could talk to them, have experienced investigators come up that maybe know more than I do about certain things, so that we could go back and forth and talk as colleagues, and other people could listen into that conversation. Not necessarily an interview, but just an interesting conversation. You notice on the live stream, I'm usually drinking whiskey. And just relax, two ghost hunters talking, and people, learn a little bit from it. And then the tagline became advice from the pros, stories from the haunted. I realized that it's not just ghost hunters that were listening to my podcast through the emails that I was getting and questions that I was getting just from the RSS feed before I started doing the lives. It was people whose houses they had activity and they were scared, but they either couldn't or didn't want to call someone in. So I was like, okay, well, let's start sharing those stories and let's start sharing advice. As an investigator, if I'm consulting you on this case, what am I going to say about it? And then with the research, there are some things that I'll look into, like if I'm looking into a property, or if I want to highlight a road trip. I think I did a podcast not too long ago. Well, yeah, a couple of years ago on a haunted road trip, and I highlighted haunted Airbnbs. So some of those I reached out to the owner and I asked them questions. And I'm like, what type of activity happens here? Who's checked that out? I checked out the websites. I talked to ghost hunting teams that had gone in and found out like what they had found at the location. So I had something to talk about there. And I put together a travel guide of haunted Airbnbs and haunted bed and breakfasts in the US.
How many?
I want to say it was 12.
What was that place called? There was a place that I know of, and they were part of the Global Ghost Hunt in May, I believe. I can't recall the name, but 12, that's not a lot. Not a whole 12 lot. Is not a lot. No, but for an hour-long show, it's... Yeah, there you go. It's good. Next.
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad at all. I like the idea of, I agree with the idea of what you said there as well, with your evolution of how the work is, that your podcast allows you to change it in real time. Because I think an issue with the book format, and this is what I've thought about as well, is you'll discover something new, and you can have 2 volumes, but volume 2 is going to contradict volume 1 and make it redundant. So I can imagine that being a challenge to think about, because I was looking to do like a paranormal book, and from my perspective of how I've seen it and all that stuff, and there is some stuff that I'd have to not put in the book, because I know that if I do another one at some point, it will be contradicted and stuff like that. So, but I like your view on it as well, like your perception of what these things are change. I actually haven't thought about it in a different way yet, so that's quite cool to hear as well. It's one of the first times I've heard someone say that a definition can change for you. I think that's quite cool.
The big thing about we're talking heads, we're people that are creating content, and the narrative is, if you're on television, if you have a show, if you're streaming, and you do, like, if you have a successful podcast, you know what you're talking about. The thing about being an expert in something is knowing that this shit doesn't work anymore because something has changed or because I misunderstood something. One of the most famous ones on my show, and when I would point out something, when it's like, hey guys, so a couple episodes ago I talked about this, I was wrong. It actually works this way. And I've said that a couple times, and I thought I was going to get eaten alive doing that. Like the first couple times I was like, I was wrong. I think it works this way. I was nervous, but the support came in and they're like, man, it's actually nice to hear somebody say that they don't know what they're talking about. Like James, the big one was spirit boxes. Forever I was big on, it's nonsense. There's no way that it could work that way. It doesn't make any sense. Went to an active location, did the Estes method, and that was interesting. And then I started doing more experiments with it. I still will not use the communication as evidence, but I use it as an investigative tool to point me in the right direction on stuff and still kind of experiment with it. So yeah, I was like, there's some validity. Something is happening here. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was watching a video this morning. Somebody, I think it was out in Europe somewhere. I think they were actually in Scotland, actually. They were using the necrophonic.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of teams use the necrophonic. And at the beginning, when I first heard about it, I used it quite a bit myself. Obviously, I've gotten completely away from it. I don't really use it anymore. And me and Lex have talked about this like umpteen times on, we're both on the fence about it, but we won't use it anymore. Obviously, I'm a huge SB7 fan, and that's my go-to. And you're right, I use it. I don't use it as an evidence thing. I use it as a communication thing to see what I'm going to get or whatever, who's ever there, if they're going to say their name, whatever. So, yeah, it's great when you get something back. But at the end, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, what is your perception or what is your feelings on the necro? And I'm sorry we're getting away from the podcast thing, but what are your feelings on the necrophonic app?
I've never used it. My feeling on apps, period, is that they're crap. But my opinion, period, on ghost boxes was that they're crap. So the phones, the way that the hardware works and the way that it's being explained to me by engineers, it's not possible for that type of communication or that type of crossover. But at the same time, and this is what I was kind of getting into as well with saying that I don't know. It's okay to not be sure because we don't have anything that's proven. We really don't know what's going on here. The big draw and the reason that we go out and do investigations or are involved in the field at all is to get answers because we're curious, because we don't know. I have no idea how EVPs happen. I just know that sometimes they do. I have no idea how ghost box communications happen. I just know that sometimes they do. And for years, I've been saying that apps are crap. And there are some that have an algorithm inside that cause spikes, and they're there and they're for entertainment only. And the communication is actually generated by the app.
Yeah.
Because of that, I won't trust any app.
Yeah. But the biggest argument that I see that people are using when it comes to the necrophonic app, and I always hear this, if I don't believe in the necrophonic app, I go, well, how come if a spirit can drain the battery from your phone, why wouldn't it be able to manipulate what's going on in your phone like the necrophonic app?
We're talking about software and energy conversion. That's two completely different things.
Well, that's always been the argument. That is the argument.
Yeah. But like one is raw. One is basically the same thing we're doing when we're digesting food and we're pulling stuff into they're pulling stuff into manifest to strengthen energy from the energy of the phone, which is the leading theory right now. There's a huge difference in gobbling up battery power and going in and messing with software to get. I mean, it's possible. We don't know. We don't know how long dude's been dead. He could have been sitting at a college. He could have been sitting at a tech school for 100 years listening to lectures on app development, but probably not.
Probably not. That's funny. That's funny. But I think this is the biggest question that anybody has that is starting a podcast or wanting to start a podcast or something along that line. And you know what? I'm going to ask this question for myself because of Parapost Network Central, and it's always good to get different kinds of perspectives and information. What do you think is the best way to generate people to come to listen to your vodcast or podcast?
The number one thing, and this is studies have shown this, and if we look at the most successful shows in the industry, they've shown this, it's just being consistent. So with the last episode of Ghosthunteradvice that I did, I broke down a study on the influence that podcasters have, because our listeners will spend hours during the day with headphones on listening to our podcasts. It's just being consistent, putting out a show every week or every other week and being dependable so people can show up. What happens is people tell their friends about that. You do a call to action on the show. Hey, if you like this, the best way to support the show is to share this out to your friends. If you're getting some value from this, they probably will too. So let them take a listen. And it's this last study that came in, 88% of podcast listeners will support the show. Now, about 5% will support monetarily. Those others are supporting the show by sharing it out, giving reviews, and helping the show grow. So your audience, the people that are listening to you right now today, are your number one engine for growth, because they're the ones who are going to share. And a referral, a person who is referred to your show is going to listen longer than somebody that just runs across it, because they're going to be like, well, I trust this guy and he told me that it was awesome. So I didn't like this opening, but I'm going to stick with it for a while. And then not everybody's going to get hooked, but a good number of those people do. And then it's just being consistent with putting things out. And when I'm talking about being consistent, building a show takes years. So when you start today, don't worry. Very few people are going to hear that first episode and how bad it is. And if you've never podcast before, it's going to be bad. My first show was actually probably my most lucrative show money-wise, but it was the roughest show for the first 5 episodes because I had never podcast before. But if you're consistent, people find it. If they see value in it and you ask them to, they're going to share it with their friends and your show grows. And in about 5 to 8 years, you've got enough of a following to monetize and do some pretty cool stuff. If you look at No Sleep Podcast, that's how they grew. It was a lot of listener support. Jim Harold was consistent for 20 years and is a full-time podcaster now.
So when you say making money and monetization, for the people that are not sure how to do that, how do you go about doing that for the people that are interested in making a little bit? They're probably not going to make a whole lot, but making a little bit and make it feel like it's worth their time that they're doing all these shows and putting up. Because from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, like Through the Lens is going through the RSS feed. So I put the show in, I edit it, whatever. I take out from your advice, I took out the intro. So and then I put it up in the RSS feed. From what I understand, if you're going through the RSS feed, there's really no way to make any money through that.
Oh, no, that's not at all true. So there are, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a couple ways to make money from your show. If you're starting a podcast, and we're in the paranormal field. I think most of the people listening to the show are in the paranormal field. When I was a little kid, I wanted more than anything to be a professional Ghostbuster. I wanted to spend my time doing that. And it took me getting to know a lot of content creators and writers to learn that if you want to be a professional ghost hunter, you're actually a professional content creator. You make podcasts, you make television shows, you make books, you do things that entertain people. And then because you're at those locations, you get to do some pretty cool ghost busting on top of doing your actual job, which is the content creation. So when
now you put something into Lex's head now he's a content creator. Now I'm going to hear that all the time. He's not a paranormal investigator anymore. He's a content creator.
I'm going to answer your question, but there is something that goes along with that. When I contacted locations that I wanted to get into to investigate, and I said, "Hi, I'm a paranormal investigator." Fuck off. And they would so I call now and I'm like, "Hi, my name is Tanner Rutledge. I'm a writer working on a book project." Or, "Hi, my name is Tanner Rutledge. I'm a content creator and I run Truly Odd Studios. Really interested in your location. Can you tell me a little bit about it? I might like to feature you guys." They open up and they let you in, and you get more access when you say content creator or writer than you ever will saying paranormal investigator.
Interesting. That is actually a really good tip.
Yep.
That is a fantastic tip. Wow.
I've got to take investigator out of my bio.
Just change the business card.
I am. Well, I think I have that. I think I do have content creator somewhere. It's either on Twitter or I know I have content creator somewhere. It actually might even be on Facebook. I don't know.
It's a serious job now somehow.
Cool. That's cool. That is a really, really good tip. Wow.
But I've gotten into I've gotten statements from law enforcement from saying, "Hey, I'm working on a book," that they never would have told me from saying, "Hey, I hunt ghosts."
Wow. How about this? We all need a content advisor.
Yes.
So
that's something that I'm doing now with Ghost Hunter Advice, because I consider myself now more of a content creator, because I'm not all of the stuff that I'm doing now is not running out to people's houses, running out to business and doing investigations anymore. I'm primarily just making content and then looking into the places that I want to look into for myself. An interesting case comes along that I am interested enough in. Yes, I will definitely take it. But I'm not out there trying to get as many investigations under my belt as possible. I've been doing it for 20 years.
There you go. It's going to cost you $10 though.
Do you write your bios?
It's going to cost you $10.
I'm going to tell you a cheat though. Go to ChatGPT, put in
exactly what I was going to say,
bio, and then edit it.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say.
Do not use that for your books.
ChatGPT is free. They have a free version. Just go in there, write in the box on what you want the bio to say, and it will bring something up that looks professional and clean. And I do that. A lot of people do that now. Like when I'm doing the crime documentaries, I'll go in and write, tell me the story of, let's say the one that we just did this past Sunday on the, was it the Cray Twins? I think we did this past Sunday. No, it was on Eileen from the States who was a prostitute that killed all those people. So what I do is I go to the ChatGPT and I write in, tell me the story of Eileen and whatever, and it gave me a whole story. I copy and paste that and put it in the description. Nice. Because there is no copyrights, because this is all created, so you're not going to get a copyright issue. Because I saw something last night, I was just going through YouTube and I thought this was really interesting, making money online. And I saw one that's Google News, that if you go into Google News, and because there's websites that will take your articles and put it up on their website and pay you for it. So what you do is you go into Google News, you find a popular story of that day, you copy and paste it, put it into Chat GPT, and it will rewrite it for you. And there's no copyright issues. And you send it to the company. There's this one company, it's called Eat Well or something like that, .com. Their website is mainly health and fitness. So you can send them an article that you've written and they pay you $1 for each word.
Yeah, there's a couple places, like I'm with writers.work and we ghostwrite for different places. And I know there's people that do that, but there is a copyright issue. It's just hard to prove.
Yeah.
And it's most writers are kind of about doing that. There are people that are making a lot of money doing it.
Yeah. And then there was another thing in that, I don't know if you've ever heard of this website. So going through chat and doing it is not enough. So what you can do is whatever chat spun out for you, copy and paste that and go over to another website. It's called Spinbot. And put it in there, and it will completely transform everything and put in new grammar, put in new words. But unfortunately, you have to look through it because it could be words in there and could be sentences in there that make absolutely no sense.
If a human editor hits that, the flow of logic is still going to be the same. And that's what tends to catch people. And I think that's what most AI finders are looking for. They'll put two articles side by side and see if the flow is the same.
Yeah.
But you had asked about monetizing your podcast.
It was interesting though. If you're looking to make money online, just putting something like that together, you can find the websites that will pay you $1, $2, $2.50 for each word. And if you have 1,400 words,
now there's a lot of guys doing that.
It's a lot of money. It's a good way to make money, but unfortunately, there's a lot of things that you have to go through. They have to accept it first. First things first. So, anyways, got off topic there.
No, you're good. So about 5 minutes, I'm going to see if I can squeeze all this into a 5-minute condensed. How do you make money with your podcast? Number one is the most effective. It's to have a product to sell with your podcast. So my most lucrative podcast was a private investigation podcast that was coupled with my PI company. That as a marketing tool for my business brought in an additional $20,000 a year for the business, just off leads and stuff that came in from the podcast and referrals. My personal training. I have a podcast that goes to my personal training that's ramping back up since I'm ramping that back up. It's Fit Parent Revolution. Might be changing the name.
We're still going to get, we're going to get into that stuff too. Cause I want to find out about this new one coming up where you're going to just be talking and drinking. I love that.
But we so with that attaches to a product, and if you have Ghost Hunter Advice or something like we're doing here, if you have a book, if you have t-shirts, if you have products that you can sell that attach to the show, that's the number one way to monetize. And you don't need anything special. You can go with an RSS feed and do that. The next one is ads. And that's what most people are familiar with. And I'm talking about Cast-O-Matic ads or Libsyn ads. These are the dynamic ads that are radio style, dropped into your show at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the show. And they change depending on which sponsor is buying that time for your show. Those, you have to have 10,000 downloads per episode. You have to hit certain metrics with your shows. And it has to be IAB downloads. That's the International Advertising Bureau. International Advertising Bureau. They set the standard so everything's level across the board with what is considered a download. And that means basically somebody listens to at least 1 minute of your show. And it's on a device that hasn't listened to that episode before at an IP address that's not linked to the same individual. So you're not counting the same person listening to the show over and over and over. But with those, it's going to go up this year because here in the US, it's an election year. They're running a lot of election podcasts or a lot of election ads on podcasts. There was a study that came out that talked about the influence of podcasters. Podcast hosts have surpassed celebrities, television, movie stars, athletes, and politicians as far as the influence that they have in people's lives. So people spend 6-8 hours driving in a car or a truck with us in their head talking to them. A lot of people listen to like 3 or 4 different shows, and they'll put those on and just listen to them all day, cleaning and doing whatever they're doing. So they found that running those ads has more return, and they get more, they move more product when they advertise on podcasting than anything else. Now, as a podcast host, you can decide not to run political ads. I don't. You're going to piss off half your audience. It doesn't matter who you run. Half your audience is going to get pissed off and start listening to your show. So I don't do that. So you'll get stuff for food, and you'll get stuff for cleaning things or better help or whatever. And then there's host read ads. That's where we actually sit down and we talk about a product, and we're like, hey, I use Vibrant Meals, and we talk about Vibrant Meals for a couple minutes, and then it scoots on out. Those you get paid more per ad than you do the other ones. Most of them I think are $4 per 1,000 downloads, I think, or per 1,000 listens.
Okay.
So I mean, most of the time when you're just starting out, you're going to make enough to cover your hosting fees and maybe your website, and it'll grow from there. A lot of podcasts, the ad revenue just covers running the podcast. So you're not going out of pocket on advertising. You're not going out of pocket on equipment upgrades, and you're not going out of pocket on any of the behind the scenes stuff that you need for your podcast. You know, the streaming service you're using, hosting service you're using, and whatever else. And then the third one, oh God, what was the third one? That adds, premium subscriptions. So this is a model that we're using for the new shows that are coming out, where people actually pay you for premium content. So like, say you have a show and it's broken into seasons. You have 10 free episodes that are free all the time, and there's 10 episodes that are behind a paywall. Or something that I'm doing, there's an entire episode that you have to be on Truly Odd, or entire podcast that's on Truly Odd Plus that's attached to another one of the free podcasts. So they pay $5 a month, and they get access to all of that, and then some other perks, whatever you want to throw in there. That's the number 2 way to actually make money. If you want to go full-time as a podcaster and content creator, that's the way to do it. You start off with just being consistent, build that up, and spend a couple years getting to where you can monetize through ads. Usually in a show like this, so say the show that I've got coming out that's true crime, or my paranormal show that's coming out through Truly Odd Studios, I can count on, once the show is running, 2 to 3% of the audience will sign up for premium. So if I 10,000 people, that's 2,000 to 3,000 people paying $5 a month. I'm going to take home probably 65% of that before taxes.
Wow.
A month.
Cool. So Lex, do you want to get, I really want to get into, Tanner's new podcast, the drinking one. I forget what it's called now. I apologize. So where do we drink? Yeah. So let's get into that if you want to ask him anything about that.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to ask you, for people that won't know what it is yet, because I don't either, what's the concept behind this new podcast you got coming out?
Yeah, so Murder We Drink is killer true crime and killer cocktails. So we do
What a combination.
Yeah, right. So we do like the most bizarre or weird true crime mixed with awesome cocktail drinks. So like one season that we were throwing around doing was Death on the Beach. So we would have like summery cocktails like Hurricane, Sex on the Beach, Bombay Sapphires, and we would talk about a murder that happened or a crime, a death that happened on a beach or in a vacation or a resort.
Oh, okay.
And we would do an entire season that way, and then we would pair the drink to the homicide. And we go through. It's a narrative style podcast when we're talking about the crime, and then we just kind of break into talking about our thoughts on the crime, talk about the drink. It's a mix between true crime and mixology.
Cool. You want to hear something interesting? You're talking about on the beach and death and stuff like that. Do you remember that couple, the Canadian couple? It was probably about 11, 12 years ago that they were there. They were down there for a wedding and they got killed on the resort. They were an older couple.
No, I don't remember.
It might have been a little longer than 10, 11 years ago. They were a very well-off, very wealthy family, and they were killed. And apparently the security guard disappeared and they couldn't find him. And he's the one who did it. Does that ring a bell?
It does. So I put together, and this is something, if you're doing a show like this that ChatGPT is great about, I need a list of 17 crimes involving someone murdered on vacation.
Yeah.
And you get stuff like that pops up. Yeah. And like what I would do is go through and like research and find out like, do I want to do this one? Do I want to do that one?
So the reason
that one probably would have made it on the list.
Yeah. So the reason I thought about that was because the fact that I got, it's got to be 13 years ago, 14 years ago when that happened. Anyways, I ended up getting a job with a company called Venus, Venus Beauty Supplies. And basically I was a consulting manager or whatever you want to call it. So I dealt with a lot of salons and beauty salons, or not beauty salons, like beauty supply stores. And I just dealt with salon and beauty supply stores, and those were all my clients. So, but one day I walked into this one particular client and they said, "Oh, so you're taking over for this guy." And I didn't know anything about this guy, and nobody had told me. And I go, "Well, who's this guy?" And he goes, "You don't know?" I go, "No, what?" And he told me the whole story. The guy that I took over, who left the position and I took his position, it was his parents that got killed in Mexico.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Nice connection.
Interesting connection, eh? And so for the longest, and then on top of it, then there was a downside to all of this too, because the guy who was working for the company was doing a lot of shady things with his clients. He was giving them at prices that he wasn't supposed to. And he was actually, if a salon would close, he would take those products, and because they weren't able to get rid of them. So he would take them and he would sell them to other salons, which is obviously not legal with the company. And so I ended up having to do a lot of damage control because everybody thought I was going to do what he was doing. Like he would sell them colors, hair color, like a tube of color would be $6.95. He was selling it to them for $2.
Oh, wow.
And they were expecting the same thing from me. Well, surprise, surprise, they didn't get that. And I ended up losing some clients that way. But I just thought it was really interesting when he started talking about the beach, and they were in Mexico when they got killed, and it just reminded me of that story. I don't know why, but anyhow, other than that, so when is that show? It's
I don't have
not
a date.
Be video. It's going to be strictly podcast, right? Strictly audio. When does that come up, and when does that get started? Or is it
coming up this fall? So it's coming up this fall.
Okay.
So the RSS feed is out. If you go to your favorite podcasting app, Apple, Spotify, whatever, you can go ahead and follow the show. You'll be able to get the updates. You can also follow us on Facebook for updates. Follow Truly Odd Studios, and we'll be getting that out. But right now it's going out fall. Yeah, it's me and Kristen. So we're both doing it. Both of us were bartenders, and we're both just super into true crime, and it gives us a chance to hang out. Originally, it was a chance for us to hang out, and then we started actually going through and practicing and talking about the concepts, and we're like, this could be a business. Let's talk to some of the other guys. So I started talking to some of the other content creators, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what I can do here. I started doing some audio editing and upping my skills with some classes on that so that I could actually put the show together, editing other podcasts and doing things. And that was what launched Truly Odd Studios. And we were like, yeah, this is viable. We're going to have fun with it either way. And this is important. If you want to monetize a show, you don't get paid in cash first. If you want to turn it into a business, you get paid in fun first. So if you don't enjoy the podcast for those first 3 years that you're not seeing any results, you were going to absolutely hate it. So make sure you enjoy what you're talking about, regardless of what you want to do.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that me and Lex enjoy what we do, and there was some time that we took off, and we obviously know this is not going to be, it's not going to, be anything high caliber or anything like that. It's just really more about the enjoyment of doing these shows, and we love it. And I did start putting it on the RSS feed last year. I'm doing it again, and it's getting views. It's getting views. The one we did last week did well. So, and it's still climbing. So eventually, hopefully we will, who knows, maybe we will get up to that point at some point. So,
well, if we do, I need to get a better microphone.
Well, no, your microphone's fine because it's all audio, right? And when I'm uploading it to the feed, and when you're coming through, it's really, really good. It sounds great. So
I always check it as soon as you let me know it's up. I always check it to make sure I sound all right.
You heard last week's, and it sounds good. You sound really, really good. So now for video,
okay, definitely need a new one for video. Yeah. Hey, baby steps. It started with this new camera first.
Well, you know what? We all look great today.
We do.
Get 3 good-looking guys up here. How can you not go? How can it not get popular?
That's a fun caveat. YouTube started off as a dating site. It was a place where people could upload dating videos, and then people just started putting up weird stuff. And YouTube was like, let's rebrand.
I didn't know that. That's weird.
Yeah. It was a dating site until someone uploaded a video of a monkey using a frog as a sex toy, and then YouTube was changed forever.
Yeah, this just got weird.
I'm gonna have to sit back one day and really, really think about that, and because I remember when YouTube first came out, and but that's interesting. But you know what, Tanner? It's been great.
Yeah,
it's great show.
Had fun.
We just don't have enough time. We need to. We could go on for another 2 hours. So what I think we'll do is we won't bring you up next week. We'll bring you up later on down the road. And I definitely want to bring you up again later on down the road, especially maybe when your other podcast starts or podcast starts. I think it would be a really, really good time to bring you up. And maybe what we can do the next time you come up is we can go through the steps on showing people the RSS feed.
Yes.
The steps on what you take on how to, maybe edit, or, everything that you do to get your, I want to say podcast, but your podcast up. I think we should do that the next time you come up and really take you through what's that?
That's going to scare some people off.
Well, maybe, but that's okay. Those are the people that aren't serious then.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. There you go. So, but I want to thank you so much for coming up. We'll definitely discuss later on when you can maybe when your show first comes out.
If you could just remind me, what's the show going to be called?
Murder We Drink.
Thank you. I'm just adding it to my.
It's awesome name. I love that name. Murder We Drink. I think it's going to be popular just because of the name.
I'm hoping so. It's this weird subgenre. That's the one.
Yeah, just going to hit a follow tab there. I'm ready for it.
Everybody else, feel free to do that.
Oh, there you go. I'm going to do it too.
I'm very excited to hear.
I'll do it too. So you just got 2 new ones today, and you don't even have an episode up yet. Or do you have anything up on there yet?
I have a trailer up. Originally, we were going to launch last year, but my co-host started this really in-depth certification that she just finished, so we pushed it back to this year.
Okay. Yep. But I want to thank you for coming on today's show, and I appreciate you setting some time aside again this week and coming up. So you know what I'm thinking? I got some thoughts running through my head right now. I'm wondering if we should bring Tanner up every so often.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
I'd be happy to do it.
Like we're just not interviewing him. We're just talking to him about what's going on, what's new, what people should be looking out for, because we're just not about paranormal anymore. We're about everything now. So I'm thinking maybe we should bring him up maybe once a month. If he's got time, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for real.
Talking about different things of what's new, what's going on, what you should be aware of, everything, and I think this could be something that could be a permanent thing as long as he's able to do it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be something that we can work out and work on and see what we can do with it.
Yeah, Tuesday nights are playing. If you want to bring me up for we could pre-record it or bring me on, depending on what the schedule's like.
We'll talk.
But once a month, like my next episode of Ghosthunteradvice that's scheduled is April 9th. I'm going to be going over podcasting 2.0 and the changes that have already came but are getting more mainstream with the RSS feed and the monetization ability there with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk. We'll talk more about this. Now you are going to be on Glenda's show this week, are you not?
Yes. So we already those are pre-recorded. We've already recorded that. And I think it comes out this week.
Yeah, I think it's I think she said that, is it the 27th it comes out?
I think so.
What's today's date? 27th?
26th.
Oh, so it's coming out tomorrow. So yeah, and that's her normal day for her show. So
cool.
And by the way, feel free to go into the Parapost group chat and just let everybody know what's going on.
Cool.
Feel free if you can do that. Okay. So, because I know a lot of people are worried and concerned. So, but now that you spoke to that person today, that'd be good if you can throw that in there so everybody knows.
Yes,
but other than that, I want to say thank you. And we'll definitely talk in the next couple of days about this. And again, man, thanks for coming up. I really, really appreciate it. Lex,
cool. See you guys.
Yep, I'll say thank you again, and well done for becoming the first guest to have a back-to-back special.
Yes.
In 3 years of doing this, it's the first time we've had to do it. So
yeah,
and it's been it's been awesome having you on, especially the last couple of weeks. And I like the fact we can just chat for ages. I'm pretty sure we could run down the clock as much as possible with loads of different stuff. But I want to thank you for that. If anyone hasn't already, check the links below here. If you haven't already done what I've just done, go onto your Spotify playlist and stuff and get that Murder We Drink podcast alerted and ready, because it's going to be great to hear. So I can't wait for that. But thank you so much again, Tanner, for coming up. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Hey, thanks, Lex.
Yeah, I will let you know that Lex does listen. He does. He usually does it when he's at work. He listens to all the podcasts. So you're going to get a listen.
So. There'll be loads. and true crime stuff. And so I'm a bartender as well. So true crime is one of my favorite hobbies. So to be able to do that at work, and when I'm closing down or something, I'll just have it on.
And it's a mixology, so technically it's part of the job.
Part of the job.
Here's a guy we haven't seen in a while.
Hey, Matt Barry.
Hey,
how
man.
you doing, brother? Oh, bro.
Good to see you, my friend. Okay, Tanner. We'll talk soon.
See you guys.
Take care.
Ciao. Wow, that's great. And you know what? When he started talking at the beginning, I started thinking about, I wonder what we could do about maybe having him come up once a month, once every month or something like that, and just talking about what's going on, because everybody needs to know this. Like, if you're really serious about becoming a real serious podcaster or vodcaster, this is the guy you want to listen to.
Because
he's got some great advice.
He does, and he puts it in a way that's not off-putting, because I know that people think they're going to start a podcast and become the next Joe Rogan straight away, which obviously doesn't happen. But
I don't think I'd want to be Joe Rogan, but I definitely would love to have his money.
An example.
I would love to have his money. He just signed a new contract, did he not?
I think so. But I think I saw this. I think the results came up that he's like the most viewed podcast like ever. I remember I saw something on. He's like at the top of a list of something. So people think it's going to be
this show
easy,
is
but
nothing special.
I mean,
It's
most
really
of it
not.
I see most of it through TikTok clips.
Yeah.
Just like Elon Musk smoking a joint in the
Yeah.
studio, stuff like
Well,
that.
there's nothing really special about he talks about everything. There's really
he doesn't question
really have a
anything.
genre of
No, he talks about everything, but sometimes he winds me up because he doesn't question stuff. The favorite one I saw the other day, someone showed him the nuclear explosion camera tests, and they're like, "What happened to the camera? It must be fake because the camera survives." And then you just go like, "Well, obviously it's filmed underground with mirrors, so the camera's not affected by the blast."
I think one thing that helps him get a larger audience is the guests that he has on the show as well.
He gets some quality people on.
Yeah, he gets quality people. But
join us next week for Robert Downey Jr. coming to this show.
Oh my god, that would be so awesome.
Can you imagine the click? We can clickbait the shit out of that title.
Well, we do have a guest. We do have a guest next week.
Fantastic.
And she is another podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And she's actually on Parapost Network Central. Her and her brother are going to be coming up. Haley and Johnny, they're actually going to be our guests next week.
Fantastic.
So so it's going to be a lot of fun. I love Haley. She's very, very I just love everything she does. And I love listening to her show. She's very relaxed on her show. Her brother's great. I did their podcast last week. It was recorded. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but so I did another podcast a couple of weeks ago called the Mug Talks, and they want to do a 5-part series on me. And so I've already done one. I'm doing another one this Thursday. I'm going to start sending out the clips for that one pretty soon because I've asked them to email. They're good guys, and I was surprised when they contacted me, said we want to do a 5-part series on you. I go, what? Why was my first question. So why was my very first question, but they've already done one, and it's really good actually, and the clips they do are really, really good. So I'm going to be doing another one, and then obviously 3 more after that. So, but other than that, I want to thank everybody that came in the show, and I want to say thank you to Nicole for not only sharing the show, but saying it's a great show. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank everybody else that came in the room as well. We will see you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And it will be 9 p.m. GM time next week, but this week it's 8 because of the time change. So we'll definitely see you next week. Lex?
Lovely. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I want to say thank you to people that are listening on your audio platforms. I lost words for a second there. Yeah. Your podcast stations. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. But I want to thank you for tuning into that as well. Please share it out to everyone. Even if we get 1 new listener a week, it's perfect for us.
And we got a bunch last week. We got a bunch last week. We got 7 new subscribers last week. 17.
Phenomenal. Welcome.
Last week we got 17 last week, which was great.
Beautiful. That's
because really we really have nothing useful to say. It's only our guests that have something useful to say.
Yeah, but they come here for our charm and charisma at the same time. But anyway, stay tuned for next week, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on Tuesday.